I was signing the final paperwork for our dream house. 5 years of saving, of sacrifice, of saying no to vacations and dinners out, when my realtor's phone rang. I watched her face change as she listened. Confusion, then concern, then something that looked like pity. "Mrs. Chen," she said carefully, setting down her phone. "I just received a very strange call from the title company. They said you called yesterday to cancel the purchase, that you'd changed your mind about the house." The room tilted. "I didn't call anyone. We're sitting here ready to close." "Why would I?" The woman on the phone knew details only you should know. "Your social security number, your bank account information." She said, my realtor hesitated. She said the house was too expensive, that you'd overextended yourselves, that you needed to back out. My husband Ryan grabbed my hand. "Someone impersonated her? Who would?" Then his face went white. "Oh God, my mother." He was right. Patricia Chen had called the title company 24 hours before our closing, pretending to be me, using information she'd somehow obtained, and canceled the purchase of the house Ryan and I had spent 5 years working toward. The house we'd scrimped and saved for. The house we'd dreamed about. The house where we'd planned to start our family. The realtor said something about fraud, about maybe being able to fix it, but I barely heard her. Because in that moment, I realized 3 things. 1, Patricia had deliberately destroyed something precious to us. 2, she'd committed a serious crime to do it. And 3, she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because what Patricia didn't know was that I'd been handling the paperwork for her investment property purchase. The condo she was buying as a rental property, the one she'd been bragging about for months, the one that was supposed to close next week, and I had her realtor's number in my phone. What I did next cost Patricia exactly $80,000 in lost earnest money and fees. But more than that, it cost her something she valued even more, her reputation in her precious real estate investment community. By the time I was done, Patricia Chen understood that sabotaging your daughter-in-law comes with consequences, expensive ones. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. You need to know about the years of saving, the house hunting, the systematic campaign Patricia waged to prove we couldn't handle home ownership. You need to understand that this wasn't just about a house. It was about a woman who couldn't stand to see her son succeed without her control, and who was willing to commit fraud to prove we didn't deserve happiness. My name is Mei Chen, and I'm a 34-year-old accountant in Seattle, Washington. I'm second-generation Chinese-American. My parents immigrated from Taiwan when I was a baby, and I grew up understanding the value of hard work, careful planning, and financial responsibility. My parents ran a small restaurant, worked 16-hour days, and somehow still managed to save enough to put me through college debt-free. I inherited their discipline. By 25, I had my CPA. By 28, I was a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm. By 30, I'd saved a down payment for a condo and bought my first property. I was methodical, careful, successful in the quiet way my parents had taught me to be. I met Ryan Chen at a professional networking event. Yes, we have the same last name. Pure coincidence, no relation. Ryan was 32, a software project manager at Microsoft, tall and athletic, with an easy smile that made him approachable despite his impressive resume. We were both there reluctantly, dragged by coworkers, and we bonded over our shared desire to leave early. "Want to get real food instead of these sad appetizers?" he asked after 20 minutes of corporate small talk. We went to a PAO restaurant and talked for 4 hours. He told me about growing up in Seattle, about his parents who'd also immigrated from Taiwan, about his mother who'd built a successful real estate investment portfolio after his father died. I told him about my family's restaurant, about my work, about my goal to buy a house before I was 35. "That's specific," he said, smiling. "That's accountant brain," I replied. "I like goals with timelines." We dated for a year before getting serious. Ryan was kind, stable, financially responsible, all the things I valued. But there was a complication I hadn't fully understood until we started talking about marriage. Patricia Chen, his mother. I met Patricia 6 months into dating Ryan. We drove to her house in Bellevue, an upscale neighborhood where every home was pristine and expensive. Patricia's house was a showcase, modern, minimalist, everything in its place. She'd made a fortune in tech real estate after her husband died, buying properties before the Seattle boom and selling at perfect times. She was wealthy, successful, and very aware of both facts. Patricia was 58, but looked younger, with perfect skin, expensive clothes, and an air of someone who was used to being the smartest person in the room. She was also Taiwanese American, first generation, and she switched between English and Mandarin seamlessly. She greeted me in Mandarin, a test. I responded fluently. My parents had insisted we speak Mandarin at home. Something flickered in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, that I'd passed her first test. "So you're an accountant," she said, switching to English. "That's practical. Ryan needs someone practical. His last girlfriend was too flighty." "Mom," Ryan said, warning in his voice. "What?" "I'm just saying May seems more grounded." "That's a compliment." But it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like assessment, like I was being evaluated for a position I hadn't applied for. Lunch was uncomfortable. Patricia asked about my finances, how much I made, how much I'd saved, what my investment strategy was. Questions that would have been rude from anyone else, but that she framed as just curious about your financial literacy. When I mentioned owning a condo, she raised an eyebrow. "You bought in the Rainier Valley? That area is up and coming." The pause before up and coming said everything. Not good enough, not prestigious enough, not her standard. "It's a good starter property," I said evenly. "Solid investment, affordable, potential for appreciation." I suppose everyone starts somewhere." Patricia smiled. "I have a portfolio of 12 investment properties now, all in prime locations. Perhaps I could give you some advice on where to buy next." "That's generous," I said, though alarm bells were ringing. This wasn't generosity. This was control. After lunch, as we drove back to Seattle, Ryan apologized. "She's a bit intense about money. It's how she shows love, trying to help people be financially successful." "That wasn't trying to help," I said carefully. "That was trying to establish dominance." Ryan frowned. "She's just proud of what she's accomplished. She wants to share that knowledge." I didn't argue, but I knew what I'd seen. Patricia wasn't trying to help. She was trying to prove she was better than me, smarter than me, more successful than me. It was a competition I hadn't agreed to enter. Ryan proposed a year later. We were hiking in the Cascades at a viewpoint overlooking a lake when he got down on one knee. "Machen, you're the most grounded person I know. You make me better. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he finished the question. We were perfect for each other. Same values, same goals, same vision for the future. We wanted to buy a house together, start a family, build a life of financial stability and quiet happiness. We called our families from the parking lot. My parents cried with joy, immediately started planning a celebration. Patricia's response was measured. "Engaged. Well, have you discussed finances? Prenup? Property division?" "Mom, we literally just got engaged 2 minutes ago," Ryan said, frustration clear. "I'm just being practical. Marriage is a financial partnership. You need to protect your assets. I don't need to protect my assets from May. We're partners." "Of course you are, darling. I'm just saying it's wise to be prepared. Ryan has his Microsoft stock, his 401k, his trust fund. I have a what?" Ryan interrupted. Silence. Then, "Your father set up a small trust. Nothing major, just 100,000 or so. I've been managing it for you." Ryan looked stunned. "You never mentioned a trust fund. I didn't want you to be irresponsible with it. I was going to tell you when you turned 35. But now that you're getting married, perhaps we should discuss it. Make sure it's properly protected." I felt sick. Patricia had hidden a 6-figure trust from Ryan to maintain control. And now that he was getting married, she was revealing it to drive a wedge between us, to make me look like a potential threat to his money. "We're not getting a prenup," Ryan said firmly. "And I want access to that trust. It's mine, and you've been hiding it." I wasn't hiding it. I was protecting it. From what? From me. That's my inheritance from Dad, and you've been controlling it for over a decade. We got off the phone quickly. Ryan was furious, betrayed, hurt that his mother had kept this secret. I was vindicated. I'd been right about Patricia's need for control, but also worried, because if she'd hidden a trust fund for this long, what else was she capable of? The wedding planning was a nightmare. Patricia had opinions about everything and framed them all as investment advice. The venue was too expensive. The flowers were wasteful. My dress was overpriced. She suggested we have a courthouse wedding and put the money toward a down payment on a rental property instead. We want a wedding, I said firmly. A celebration with our families. I'm just saying that's $30,000 that could be working for you in real estate. It's our money and our choice. Patricia's smile was tight. Of course, it's your wedding. Though I notice you're not asking me to contribute financially. We didn't think I would have contributed, she interrupted. But clearly you don't value my input. That's fine. I'll just watch you make expensive mistakes. We got married in a beautiful ceremony at a winery outside Seattle. My parents hosted, beaming with pride, treating Ryan like the son they'd never had. Patricia showed up in white, not a wedding dress, but a white pantsuit that drew attention away from me. She gave a toast about how marriage was a financial partnership and how important it was to have separate bank accounts and clear property boundaries. I'm sure May and Ryan will figure out their financial arrangement, she said, smiling at the guests. Though Ryan has always been a bit too trusting. Hopefully May will take care of him. The implication was clear. I was after his money. After the wedding, Ryan confronted her. What you said in your toast was completely inappropriate. I was just being practical. You were being insulting to my wife. Mom, I need you to stop this. Stop questioning our financial decisions. Stop implying May is taking advantage of me. Stop trying to control every aspect of my life. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I'm your mother. I'm trying to help you avoid mistakes. When your father died, I was left to manage everything alone. I don't want you to struggle the way I did. Dad left you well provided for. You told me yourself you turned his insurance money into a real estate empire. That's impressive. But it doesn't give you the right to control my marriage. I'm not trying to control anything. I just want what's best for you. Then respect my choices. Respect May. And stop treating our marriage like a business merger you need to oversee. Patricia apologized, said she'd back off, promised to respect our boundaries. But nothing changed. She just got more subtle about her interference. Ryan and I spent the first year of marriage happily despite Patricia's shadow. We combined our finances. I handled the budget because I was an accountant, and Ryan was happy to let me. We lived in my condo, saved aggressively, and started house hunting. Our goal was clear: save for 5 years, then buy a dream house in a good school district. Something bigger than my condo, with a yard, in a neighborhood where we could raise kids. We calculated exactly what we needed: $150,000 down payment for a $750,000 house, plus closing costs, plus emergency fund. It required discipline. We kept our old cars. We packed lunches. We skipped expensive vacations. Every bonus, every raise, every tax refund went into savings. It wasn't glamorous, but it was working. Our down payment fund grew, $20,000, then $50,000, then $100,000. Patricia watched this with increasing commentary. You're being too aggressive with your savings. You should invest in real estate now, even if it's just a rental property. Time in the market beats timing the market. We have a plan, I said. We're saving for the house we actually want to live in. That's emotional decision-making, not financial strategy. I could help you find an investment property that would generate income while you save. We appreciate the offer, but we're good with our plan. Suit yourself, Patricia said. Just seems short-sighted to wait 5 years when you could be building equity now. But we stuck to our plan. And in year 4 we found it, our dream house. It was in Maple Leaf, a family-friendly Seattle neighborhood with good schools and tree-lined streets. The house was a 1920s Craftsman that had been beautifully renovated, original charm with modern updates. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a yard big enough for kids and a dog, a finished basement Ryan could use as a home office. It was listed at $780,000, slightly above our target, but it was perfect. This is it, Ryan said as we walked through. This is where we raise our family. I felt it too. This house wasn't just an investment. It was our future. Our kids would learn to ride bikes in that driveway. We'd host Thanksgivings in that dining room. We'd grow old in that house. We made an offer, $785,000, escalating to $800,000 if needed. And we won. The sellers accepted our offer. We had 30 days to close. We were ecstatic. 5 years of discipline had paid off. We called our families to share the news. My parents were thrilled. immediately talking about what furniture they'd bring over to help us settle in. Patricia's response was different. Maple Leaf? That's a nice neighborhood. Though property taxes are high there, and the schools, while good, are becoming overcrowded. Are you sure you want to commit to that? We love the house, Ryan said. It's perfect for us. Perfect is a strong word. Have you had it inspected thoroughly? Old houses can have hidden problems, foundation issues, electrical problems, plumbing that needs replacing. We're getting a full inspection, I said. We're being thorough. I could have my inspector look at it, Patricia offered. Someone I trust who knows what to look for. We have our own inspector, but thank you. Patricia's smile was tight. Of course. I'm sure your inspector is fine, though I do know someone who specializes in houses from that era. Just trying to help. The inspection came back mostly clean. Minor issues, nothing that would prevent us from buying. We negotiated repairs with the sellers. We secured our mortgage at a great rate. We notified our landlord that we'd be moving out of the condo. Everything was falling into place. 2 weeks before closing, Patricia announced she was also buying a property. An investment condo in Capitol Hill. Great location, good rental potential. I'm closing the week after you. That's great, Mom, Ryan said, distracted by our own upcoming move. It's a smart investment. Unlike a primary residence, which is really just an expense dressed up as an asset, but I suppose everyone has different financial philosophies. I bit my tongue. We were too close to closing to let Patricia provoke me. 1 week before closing, I was buried in paperwork. As an accountant, I was meticulous, reviewing every document, checking every number, making sure nothing would derail our purchase. And because I was handling all the financial coordination, I had access to all our accounts, all our documents, all our information, including, unfortunately, my social security number, bank account numbers, and personal details stored on our home computer. The computer Patricia had used when she'd visited 2 weeks earlier, claiming she needed to check her email because her phone was dead. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But I should have. 3 days before closing, Patricia called with more concerns. I was thinking about that house. The neighborhood is nice, but it's a bit far from Microsoft's campus. Ryan's commute will be almost an hour in traffic. I work from home 2 days a week, Ryan said. The commute is fine. Still, that's a lot of time in the car. And May, won't you be tired after working all day and then maintaining a house that size? It's so much more than a condo. We're prepared for that, I said, if you say so. I just worry you're overextending yourselves. That house is expensive. What if one of you loses your job? What if property values drop? You'd be underwater on your mortgage. We have emergency savings, Ryan said, frustration creeping into his voice. Mom, please stop trying to talk us out of this. We're buying the house. It's happening. I know, darling. I'm just expressing concern because I love you. I want you to be financially secure. The day before closing, I took a half day off work to prepare. We had our final walkthrough scheduled at 3 p.m., signing at 10 a.m. the next morning. I was reviewing documents when my phone rang. Our realtor, Jennifer Kim. May, I need to talk to you about something strange. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? The title company just called me. They said you contacted them yesterday to cancel the purchase. That you'd changed your mind about the house. The world stopped. I didn't call anyone. We're closing tomorrow. That's what I thought. But they said the woman on the phone had all your information. Your social security number, your bank account numbers. She knew details about the transaction that only you should know. What exactly did she say? That you and Ryan had decided the house was too expensive. That you'd overextended yourselves financially. That you needed to back out of the purchase. My hands started shaking. Someone impersonated me. That's what it looks like. And May, there's more. She also contacted the sellers directly and said some very unflattering things about your financial situation. Implied that you might not be able to close, even if you wanted to. The sellers are now concerned and considering backup offers. Can we fix this? Can we prove I didn't make that call? We're trying, but the damage is done. The title company has flagged your file for fraud investigation. The sellers are spooked, and we have less than 24 hours to sort this out. I hung up and immediately called Ryan. Your mother just sabotaged our house purchase. Silence. Then, what? I explained everything. The impersonation, the cancellation, the damage to our credibility. How do you know it was my mother? Ryan asked, though his voice already knew the answer. Who else has all my personal information? Who else has been trying to convince us not to buy this house? Who else would benefit from us not moving forward? But why would she? Ryan stopped. Oh God, the trust fund. The comment about our house being too good for us. She doesn't think we deserve this. She thinks she knows better, I said. And she's willing to commit fraud to prove it. We called Patricia immediately. She denied everything. I haven't called anyone about your house. I've been busy with my own property purchase. This is ridiculous. Mom, someone with access to May's personal information impersonated her. You used our computer 2 weeks ago. You had access to everything. Are you accusing me of fraud? Your own mother? Did you or did you not call the title company pretending to be May? Long pause. Then, I may have called to ask some questions about the transaction. I was concerned about the terms. As Ryan's mother, I have a right to be involved in major financial decisions. You have absolutely no right, I said, my voice shaking with rage. You impersonated me. You canceled our house purchase. You committed fraud. I didn't cancel anything. I just expressed concerns that perhaps the purchase wasn't wise. If the title company chose to flag the transaction, that's their decision, not mine. You knew exactly what you were doing, Ryan said. You sabotaged our dream house because you couldn't stand that we were succeeding without your input. I was trying to protect you. That house is too expensive. You're making a mistake. That's not your decision to make. Ryan's voice rose. Mom, you just destroyed 5 years of work. 5 years of saving and planning and dreaming. For what? To prove you're smarter than us? Patricia started crying. I'm your mother. I'm trying to help you avoid the mistakes I made. When your father died, we were overextended on properties. I had to dig us out. I don't want that for you. Then you should have had a conversation with us, I said coldly. Not committed fraud. I didn't commit fraud. I made a phone call expressing concerns. That's not illegal, but it was illegal, and I was going to prove it. I spent the next 2 hours on the phone with lawyers, with the title company, with our realtor. The situation was worse than I'd thought. Patricia's call had triggered a fraud investigation that automatically paused the closing. Even if we could prove we still wanted the house, even if we could clear up the impersonation, the sellers were now considering backup offers because Patricia had implied we weren't financially stable. 5 years, I kept saying to Ryan. 5 years we saved for this. And she destroyed it in one phone call. Ryan looked devastated. I'll talk to her again. I'll make her call the title company and admit what she did. But when he called Patricia back, she doubled down. I'm not admitting to anything because I didn't do anything wrong. I asked questions about my son's financial transaction. That's not fraud. You impersonated May. You used her personal information. I identified myself as Ryan's mother making inquiries on behalf of the family. If they assumed I was May, that's not my fault. It was gaslighting, and we both knew it. But Patricia had been careful enough with her wording that proving fraud would be difficult. Our lawyer explained it to us. You could file a police report. You could pursue charges, but proving she deliberately impersonated May versus just making inquiries using information she had access to as family? That's a gray area, and even if you prove it, the damage is done. The sellers are backing out. The house is going to back up offers, so she wins? I asked, fury making my voice tight. She commits fraud and faces no consequences? I didn't say that, our lawyer said. I said proving criminal fraud is difficult. But there are other ways to address this. I asked what he meant, but he just gave me a knowing look. You're an accountant, Mrs. Chen. I'm sure you understand the importance of accurate financial disclosures. It took me a moment to understand what he was suggesting. Then it clicked. Patricia was closing on her investment property in 6 days. An investment property requires accurate financial disclosures, including any outstanding debts, any pending legal issues, any fraud investigations. If Patricia was being investigated for fraud, even if charges weren't filed, that was material information that should be disclosed. I need to make a phone call, I said. That evening, while Ryan handled yet another conversation with our heartbroken realtor, I did something I'd never thought I'd do. I called Patricia's realtor. Hello, this is Robert Martinez, the voice answered. Mr. Martinez? My name is May Chen. I'm calling about Patricia Chen's property purchase that's closing next week. Are you related to Mrs. Chen? I'm her daughter-in-law, and I have information about a fraud investigation involving Mrs. Chen that I believe you should be aware of. Silence. Then, what kind of fraud investigation? Mrs. Chen impersonated me yesterday to sabotage a real estate transaction. She used my personal information without permission to contact a title company and cancel a house purchase. We've filed a complaint with the title company and are considering criminal charges. I thought you should know before her closing, since this would constitute material information that should be disclosed. Has she been charged with anything? Not yet, but the investigation is active. The title company on our transaction has flagged her actions as potential fraud. I have documentation if you need it. More silence. Then, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll need to discuss this with Mrs. Chen and possibly delay the closing pending resolution of these allegations. I understand, I said. I just thought you should know what kind of person you're doing business with. After I hung up, I felt sick. What I'd just done wasn't illegal. Everything I'd told him was true. But it was calculated revenge. I'd known that alerting Patricia's realtor would jeopardize her investment property purchase. That was the point. Ryan found me sitting in the kitchen, shaking. What did you do? I told him, watched his face cycle through emotions, shock, concern, then something that looked like grim satisfaction. She's going to lose that property, he said. I know. She'll lose her earnest money. The inspection costs, the appraisal fees, probably $80,000 total. I know. Good, Ryan said, surprising me. She destroyed our dream. Now she knows what that feels like. Within an hour, Patricia was calling Ryan. He put her on speaker so I could hear. What did May do? Patricia's voice was shaking with rage. My realtor just called. He's putting my closing on hold because of some fraud investigation. Did you tell him I committed fraud? May told him the truth, Ryan said calmly. That you impersonated her, used her personal information, and sabotaged our house purchase. That's material information a realtor should know before doing business with you. I'll sue her for slander, for tortious interference, for telling the truth? I interrupted. Everything I told your realtor is documented. You used my social security number. You called the title company claiming to have concerns about a transaction you weren't party to. You used information you only had access to because we trusted you. That's fraud, Patricia. I was trying to help you. You were trying to control us, I said. And now you're facing consequences. My property. I've been planning this investment for months. I have renters lined up. If I lose this property because of your vindictive, then you'll understand exactly how we felt yesterday, Ryan said. When you destroyed 5 years of our planning in one phone call. Patricia hung up. She called back 20 minutes later, crying. Please tell Robert it was a misunderstanding. I'll apologize. I'll help you get your house back. Just don't destroy my investment. How are you going to get our house back? I asked. The sellers already accepted a backup offer. They don't trust us anymore because you implied we're financially unstable. I'll call them. I'll explain it was a mistake. No, Ryan said firmly. You've done enough. You're not calling anyone related to our house ever again. Then what do you want? What will it take for you to fix this with Robert? I don't want anything, I said. This isn't a negotiation. You committed fraud. You're facing consequences. That's called accountability. Over the next 2 days, Patricia tried everything. She called Ryan every few hours, alternating between tears and threats. She showed up at our condo. We didn't let her in. She sent emails promising to never interfere again if we'd just call her realtor and clear things up. Ryan finally responded to one email. Mom, I love you. But what you did was unforgivable. You didn't just cancel a house. You violated May's privacy. You committed fraud. You destroyed something we'd worked toward for 5 years. And you did it because you couldn't accept that we were making decisions without your approval, until you truly understand why that was wrong. Not just that you got caught, but why the action itself was wrong. We can't have a relationship. Patricia's response, I understand you're angry, but you're my son. You can't just cut me out of your life. I made a mistake. I'm human. Don't let May turn you against your own mother. May didn't turn me against you, Ryan wrote back. You did that yourself. Meanwhile, Patricia's real estate closing was falling apart. Her realtor had disclosed the fraud investigation to the sellers of the investment property. The sellers, understandably concerned, had demanded additional financial documentation and a delayed closing pending resolution of the fraud allegations. Patricia couldn't provide what they wanted because there was an active investigation. The sellers had a right to walk away if they felt the buyer wasn't acting in good faith. And after Patricia's realtor explained the situation, that his client had impersonated someone to sabotage a different real estate transaction, they exercised that right. Patricia's investment property sale collapsed. She lost her $50,000 earnest money deposit. She'd paid for inspections, appraisals, and legal fees, another $10,000 at least. And the property she'd lost out on had multiple other interested buyers. So she couldn't just restart the purchase. Total cost, around $80,000 in lost money and lost opportunity. Our lawyer called with an update on our situation. The title company has completed their investigation. They've determined that fraud occurred and that Mrs. Patricia Chen made false statements regarding your financial situation. They're considering filing a complaint with law enforcement. And our house? Ryan asked. I'm sorry. The sellers accepted another offer. But you're cleared to continue house hunting without this flagging your record. We'd lost the house. 5 years of saving, of planning, of dreaming, gone. Not because we'd made mistakes, but because Patricia had deliberately sabotaged us. I cried that night. Really cried. Ryan held me while I sobbed about the Craftsman house with the perfect yard, the neighborhood we'd imagined raising our kids in, the future that had been stolen from us. We'll find another house, Ryan said, but he sounded hollowed out too. It won't be that house, I said. That was our house, and she took it from us. The next morning, we received a certified letter from Patricia's lawyer. It was a cease and desist, demanding we stop making false and defamatory statements about Patricia to third parties. It threatened legal action if we continued to interfere with Mrs. Chen's business relationships. I laughed when I read it. Actually laughed. She's threatening to sue us? After what she did? Our lawyer reviewed the letter and dismissed it. It's posturing. Everything you told her realtor was true and documented. She has no case. This is just an attempt to intimidate you. But the letter revealed something important. Patricia still didn't think she'd done anything wrong. She thought she was the victim. We were the villains for holding her accountable. Ryan called her one final time. Mom, I got your lawyer's letter. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop this cease and desist threat, or I'm filing a police report for fraud and identity theft. The title company already has documentation. I have testimony. You'll be charged. You wouldn't do that to your own mother. Watch me. You destroyed something precious to May and me, something we worked 5 years for, and you did it deliberately, maliciously, because you couldn't stand that we were succeeding without your permission. That's not love. That's control. That's abuse. I was trying to help. Stop, Ryan interrupted. Stop saying you were trying to help. You weren't. You were trying to prove you were smarter than us, that we needed you, that we couldn't make good decisions without you. But all you proved is that you're willing to commit crimes to maintain control over my life. Ryan, please, here are your choices. Drop the cease and desist. Admit what you did to the title company. Apologize genuinely. And stay out of our lives while we figure out if we can ever trust you again. Or don't, and I file criminal charges. Your call. Patricia chose self-preservation. Her lawyer sent a letter withdrawing the cease and desist. Patricia submitted a statement to the title company admitting she'd made inappropriate inquiries using information she shouldn't have had access to. She didn't call it fraud, but the admission was enough to close their investigation. And then silence. No more calls, no more emails, no more showing up uninvited. Patricia disappeared from our lives. How do you feel? I asked Ryan one night, 3 weeks after everything had fallen apart. Grief, he said. I lost my mother. Not to death, but to her own choices. And I lost the house we were supposed to raise our family in. We'll find another house, I said, though my heart wasn't in it. I know, but it won't be that house. And every time we look at houses now, I'll think about how we could have been in that perfect Craftsman if my mother hadn't sabotaged us. We'd won the battle. Patricia had faced consequences. Lost money, lost her investment opportunity. But we'd lost too. Lost our dream house. Lost years of planning. Lost the relationship with Ryan's mother, however fraught it had been. Victory felt hollow. 3 months after Patricia sabotaged our house purchase, we were still living in my condo, still recovering emotionally, still trying to figure out whether to restart our house hunt or just give up on the dream entirely. Maybe we're not meant to be homeowners, I said one Sunday morning. scrolling through real estate listings half-heartedly. Maybe Patricia was right that we were overextending ourselves. Ryan looked up from his laptop, alarmed. Don't let her get in your head. She wasn't right. She was controlling. But what if we buy another house and something goes wrong? What if we can't afford it? What if we let her win by being too afraid to try again? Ryan interrupted. May, she wants us to doubt ourselves. That's what this was all about, proving we couldn't succeed without her guidance. If we give up now, she's proven her point. He was right, but the fear was real. Patricia had shaken my confidence in a way nothing else ever had. I'd always been so sure of my financial decisions, my planning, my ability to achieve my goals. Now everything felt uncertain. My parents noticed the change in me. You seem sad, my mother said in Mandarin during our weekly dinner. Not like yourself. We lost the house, I said. 5 years of work gone. But there will be other houses, my father said practically. You're young. You have good jobs. You'll save again. It's not just about the house, I tried to explain. It's about Patricia stealing something from us, making us feel like we can't trust our own judgment. My mother made a disapproving sound. That woman, Ryan's mother, she has too much pride, thinks her way is the only way. She committed fraud, Ma. She impersonated me. And you made her pay, my father said with a slight smile. $80,000. That's expensive lesson. But we still lost the house, I said. So who really won? Nobody won, my mother said wisely. That's what happens when family fights. Everybody loses something. That conversation stayed with me. My mother was right. Nobody had won. Patricia had lost money and her son's trust. We'd lost our dream house and years of emotional peace. And for what? Because Patricia couldn't let go of control. I was still thinking about this a week later when I got a call from Jennifer Kim, our original realtor. May, I have strange news. The Maple Leaf house, your house, is back on the market. My heart jumped. What happened? The buyers who got the backup offer couldn't get financing. Their loan fell through. The sellers are relisting, and they're asking if you and Ryan are still interested. I couldn't speak for a moment. Our house, our perfect Craftsman. Back on the market. The sellers know what happened with Patricia, Jennifer continued. I explained the fraud investigation, showed them the title company's findings. They understand you weren't the problem. They're willing to work with you if you're still interested. At what price? I asked, forcing myself to be practical even as hope surged. They're asking $795,000, $10,000 more than you originally offered, but they're motivated to close quickly. And May, I think we can negotiate them back down to $785,000, given what happened with the previous buyers. I hung up and immediately called Ryan. The house is back. Our house. It's available again. Silence on the other end. Then, are you sure you want to try again? After everything? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me is terrified, but part of me thinks, what if this is supposed to be our house? What if we're supposed to fight for it? What about my mother? If we buy this house, she'll see it as us defying her judgment. She'll find some way to interfere again. Then we make it impossible for her to interfere, I said. We lock down all our information. We don't tell her anything until after closing. We protect ourselves. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Okay, let's do it. Let's get our house back. We made a new offer, $785,000, same as before. We had all our documentation ready, all our finances verified independently. We didn't tell Patricia. We didn't tell anyone except my parents and our closest friends. The sellers accepted our offer. We had 30 days to close, and this time, we were paranoid about security. I changed all my passwords. We used a different title company. We communicated with our realtor only through encrypted email. We were taking no chances, but 2 weeks before closing, Patricia found out. I don't know how. Maybe she was monitoring Ryan's credit report. Maybe she heard through mutual friends. But she called Ryan, frantic. You're buying that house? The same house? After I told you it was a mistake? We're not discussing this with you, Ryan said. Ryan, please listen to me. That house is overpriced. The neighborhood is declining. You're making a terrible financial decision. My decision to make. I'm your mother. You can't just shut me out like this. You shut yourself out when you committed fraud, Ryan said, and hung up. Patricia tried calling back. We blocked her number. She tried emailing. We filtered her messages to spam. She tried showing up at our condo. We called building security and had her removed from the visitor list. She's going to try something. I told Ryan. She can't stand that we're buying the house without her approval. Let her try, Ryan said grimly. We're prepared this time, but I underestimated Patricia's desperation and resourcefulness. 1 week before closing, our mortgage lender called. Mrs. Chen, we need to discuss some irregularities that have come to light in your application. Ice flooded my veins. What irregularities? We received an anonymous tip that you've been concealing debt. Credit cards you didn't disclose. Student loans still outstanding. The tipster provided account numbers. That's not true. I disclosed everything. We're required to investigate all tips. I'll need you to provide additional documentation proving you don't have these accounts. It took me 2 days to gather proof that the accounts didn't exist. Statements showing they were closed years ago. Letters from creditors confirming zero balances. The anonymous tip was obviously Patricia, trying one more time to sabotage our purchase. But this time, we were ready. I documented everything and sent it to both the lender and our lawyer. I know who made this false report, I wrote. This is harassment related to a previous fraud incident. I have documentation of the pattern of behavior. The lender cleared us. The false tip was noted in our file as fraudulent interference, and I added it to the growing evidence file against Patricia. She's not going to stop, Ryan said, exhausted. Even after losing $80,000, even after I cut her out of my life, she's still trying to control us. Then we need to make the consequences more severe, I said. I called our lawyer. I want to file for a restraining order. Patricia has now twice attempted to sabotage our real estate transactions using fraud and false reports. She's harassing us. I want legal protection. Our lawyer agreed. You have more than enough evidence. The fraud with the first closing, the cease and desist threat she withdrew, and now this false tip to your lender. That's a pattern of harassment. We filed for an order of protection. The hearing was set for 2 days before our closing. Patricia showed up to the hearing with her own lawyer, an expensive one who tried to paint her as a concerned mother whose adult children were overreacting to normal parental involvement. Our lawyer presented our evidence. The recorded calls to the title company impersonating me. The anonymous tip to the lender with information only Patricia could have known. The pattern of interference spanning months. The judge, a woman in her 60s, listened carefully. Then she asked Patricia directly, Mrs. Chen, did you call the title company in March using your daughter-in-law's personal information? Patricia hesitated. Her lawyer whispered something. Finally, I called to ask questions about my son's financial transaction. I may have given them information to verify I was authorized to discuss it. You impersonated your daughter-in-law to cancel a real estate transaction. Yes or no? I expressed concerns that I felt needed to be heard. Yes or no, Mrs. Chen? Long pause. I may have allowed them to believe I was May in order to be taken seriously. That's fraud, the judge said flatly. And the anonymous tip to the lender last week? Was that you? I don't know what you're talking about. Mrs. Chen, you sent detailed information about accounts you believed your daughter-in-law had. Information that could only have come from accessing her personal records when she trusted you with her computer. Was that anonymous tip you? Patricia's lawyer interjected. Your Honor, my client invokes her Fifth Amendment right. She can invoke whatever she wants. The judge interrupted. But I've seen enough. This is a clear pattern of harassment and fraud, motivated by a need to control adult children's financial decisions. I'm granting a 2-year order of protection. Mrs. Patricia Chen is to have no contact, direct or indirect, with Ryan Chen or May Chen. No phone calls, no emails, no showing up at their home or workplace. No third-party contact, no interference with their financial affairs. If she violates this order, she will be arrested. Patricia started crying. You can't do this. He's my son. You can't keep me from my son. Your son is 37 years old, the judge said. He's not a child who needs your protection. He's an adult who needs protection from you. This order stands. We walked out of that courthouse feeling something we hadn't felt in months. Safe. 2 days later, we closed on the house. The Maple Leaf Craftsman with the perfect yard and the future we'd dreamed about. We got the keys, walked through our empty house, and just stood in the living room holding each other. We did it, Ryan whispered. Despite everything she did to stop us, we did it. We did it, I agreed. But I felt hollow inside. Yes, we had the house, but we'd lost so much to get it. 5 years of saving had turned into 6 because of the delays. Ryan's relationship with his mother was destroyed. We'd spent thousands on lawyers. We'd lived in fear for months. The house felt like both a victory and a monument to everything we'd survived. My parents came over that night with takeout and champagne. "Your house," my mother said in Mandarin, walking through the rooms. "So beautiful. You worked so hard for this." "Too hard," my father said quietly. "That woman, Ryan's mother, she caused you so much pain." "But we won," I said, trying to convince myself as much as him. "Winning isn't always about getting what you want," my father said. "Sometimes winning is just surviving." We moved in 2 weeks later, unpacked our boxes, arranged our furniture, made the house ours. And it was wonderful, everything we'd dreamed about. But every time I walked through that front door, I thought about what it had cost us. Not just money, but peace, trust, family relationships. Patricia didn't violate the restraining order. We heard through distant relatives that she was devastated by her son cutting her off, that she was telling everyone she'd just been trying to help and we'd overreacted. She positioned herself as the victim, as always. But the real estate investment community in Seattle is smaller than you'd think. Word had gotten around about what Patricia had done, impersonating her daughter-in-law, losing a property purchase because of fraud investigations, being hit with a restraining order. Her reputation in the circles she valued was damaged. Several months after we moved in, we got a letter from Patricia. It was 10 pages long, handwritten, and it arrived at my parents' restaurant because she didn't have our new address. The letter was part apology, part justification, part plea. She was sorry for causing us pain, but she'd only wanted to protect us from a bad financial decision. She was sorry for using my information, but she'd felt she had no other way to be heard. She was sorry Ryan felt he had to cut her out. But she hoped someday he'd understand she'd been coming from a place of love. "Love doesn't commit fraud," I said after reading it. Ryan read the letter silently, then put it in a drawer. "She still doesn't get it. She's sorry we're upset, but she's not sorry for what she did. She still thinks she was right. Do you want to respond?" "No," Ryan said. "Not until she truly understands why what she did was wrong. Not just that it had consequences, but why the action itself, the control, the fraud, the refusal to respect our autonomy was fundamentally wrong." 6 months after moving in, I found out I was pregnant. We'd been trying since before we bought the house, and now, finally, it was happening. We were going to have a baby in the house we'd fought so hard for. Should we tell my mother? Ryan asked. "No," I said immediately. "Not yet. Maybe not until after the baby's born. I can't handle her trying to control my pregnancy the way she tried to control our house purchase. She's going to find out eventually. Then she finds out when we're ready. On our terms. After the restraining order expires, if she's proven she can respect boundaries. But Ryan, I'm not letting her near our child until I'm convinced she's changed." Ryan nodded. "Agreed. Our child deserves better than a grandmother who thinks love means control." We kept the pregnancy secret from Patricia, told my parents, told our close friends, but not Patricia's side of the family. When our son was born, healthy, perfect, 8 pounds of pure joy, we still didn't tell her. "She's going to be furious when she finds out she has a grandson she wasn't told about," Ryan said. "Holding our newborn son. Then she'll be furious," I said. "She earned that consequence." But keeping the secret felt wrong too. Not because Patricia deserved to know, but because our son deserved a grandmother who was healthy and safe to be around. And the question haunted me. Was Patricia capable of change? Or had we permanently lost her to her need for control? Our son, Daniel, was 6 months old when Patricia found out about him. We still don't know who told her. Maybe a distant relative saw photos my parents posted. Maybe she was monitoring social media more carefully than we thought. But she found out. The letter arrived at our house, forwarded through our lawyer because of the restraining order. It had expired after 2 years, but we'd specifically told Patricia through her lawyer that any contact should go through legal channels. "I have a grandson," the letter read, "and you didn't tell me. I understand you're angry. I understand you don't trust me. But keeping a grandchild from his grandmother because of a mistake I made years ago? That's cruel, May. That's unforgivable. I laughed bitterly when I read a mistake. Still, after everything, Patricia couldn't call it what it was: fraud, harassment, control. She's right about one thing, Ryan said quietly. Daniel deserves to know his grandmother, if she's capable of being one. That's a big if, I know. But maybe we owe it to Daniel to find out. I didn't want to. Every instinct told me that letting Patricia back into our lives, even peripherally, was dangerous. She'd proven she was willing to destroy things we cared about when she didn't get her way. What would she do if she disagreed with how we were raising Daniel? But Ryan's grief over losing his mother was palpable. He'd been an only child, and his father had died when he was young. Patricia was his only living parent, and despite everything she'd done, he loved her. "What would it take for you to feel safe letting her meet Daniel?" Ryan asked. I thought about it carefully. Genuine accountability. Not just, "I'm sorry you were hurt," but "I was wrong to do what I did." Therapy. Proof she's worked on her control issues. Strict boundaries that she respects consistently. And consequences if she violates them. Immediate, permanent consequences. That's a high bar. She set it that high when she committed fraud, I said. If she wants to be in her grandson's life, she has to prove she's safe. Ryan wrote back to Patricia through the lawyers. He outlined our terms. She needed to complete therapy focused on boundaries and control issues. She needed to write a genuine apology that acknowledged what she'd actually done wrong. And she needed to respect a trial period of supervised contact with strict rules. Patricia's response came a week later. "You want me to go to therapy like I'm crazy? You want me to apologize for trying to protect you? I made a mistake with the house, I admit that. But therapy? That's excessive. I'm your mother. I shouldn't have to jump through hoops to see my grandson." "There's your answer," I said to Ryan. "She's still not taking responsibility." Ryan looked crushed. "She's never going to change, is she?" "Not until she hits a bottom hard enough to force her to change," I said. "And maybe not even then." We didn't respond to Patricia's letter. The silence stretched from weeks to months. Daniel grew, babbling, crawling, starting to pull himself up on furniture. He was a happy baby, surrounded by love from my parents, from our friends, from us. He didn't miss having a paternal grandmother because he'd never known he was supposed to have one. When Daniel was 1 year old, we threw a small birthday party at our house, just family and close friends. We posted a few photos on social media, carefully cropped to not show our address, privacy settings locked down. We were happy. Our house was full of love. Patricia was a distant memory until she showed up. I was in the kitchen cutting cake when my mother came in, her face tight. "That woman is here," she said in Mandarin. "Ryan's mother, outside, with presents." My blood ran cold. I went to the front door, where Ryan was already talking to Patricia through the screen door. "Mom, you can't be here. You weren't invited." "It's my grandson's birthday," Patricia said. She looked older. Her hair was more gray than I remembered, her face lined. "I have a right to be here." "You have no rights," I said, coming up beside Ryan. "You haven't made any effort to meet our terms. You've shown up uninvited at our home, which you said you wouldn't do. You need to leave." "I brought presents for Daniel. Just let me see him. 5 minutes." "No," Ryan said firmly. "Mom, I told you what we needed from you. You refused. This is the consequence. You can't keep my grandson from me forever because I made one mistake years ago." "It wasn't one mistake," I said, my voice rising. "It was fraud. It was harassment. It was a pattern of control that you've never taken responsibility for. And showing up uninvited to our house proves you still don't respect boundaries." Inside, I could hear Daniel starting to fuss, picking up on the tension. My father had taken him to another room, but the baby was upset. "You're upsetting our son," Ryan said. "Please leave. I'm his grandmother. You're a woman who committed fraud against his mother," I interrupted. Until you can genuinely acknowledge what you did and show you've changed, you don't get access to our child. Patricia's face crumpled. Please, I'm sorry. I'll do the therapy. I'll write the apology. Just let me meet my grandson. No, Ryan said. Not like this. Not with you showing up uninvited trying to force your way in. That's the exact behavior that got us here in the first place. When you're genuinely ready to respect our boundaries, not just say you will, but actually do it, then we'll talk. Patricia stood on our porch crying for several minutes before finally leaving. We watched her drive away, then went back to the party, but the joy was gone. Everyone was uncomfortable. Daniel was cranky. The day was ruined. She's never going to stop, I said to Ryan that night after everyone had left and Daniel was asleep. She's never going to respect our boundaries. She's never going to change. So what do? Keep her out of our lives forever? Maybe, I said. Maybe that's what's necessary to protect our family. Ryan looked devastated. She's my mother, and yes, she's done terrible things. But the idea of Daniel growing up, never knowing his paternal grandmother, of me never reconciling with my only living parent, it's killing me, May. I know, I said softer. But I'm not willing to sacrifice our family's peace so Patricia can feel like a grandmother without doing the work to actually be one. We were at an impasse. Ryan wanted his mother in his life, wanted Daniel to know her. I wanted to protect our family from someone who'd proven she was willing to harm us to maintain control. What if we gave her one more chance? Ryan asked. Real terms, strict enforcement, immediate consequences if she violates them. But one more chance. Why? I asked. So she can sabotage Daniel's college fund? Impersonate me to his pediatrician? What's the limit of what we're willing to risk? I don't know, Ryan admitted. But I know that cutting her out completely hasn't given me peace. I'm grieving her like she's dead, except she's not dead. She's just broken. And I keep wondering if there's a way to fix this that doesn't require me to lose her forever. I understood his pain. But I also remembered standing in our realtor's office 5 years ago, learning that Patricia had destroyed our dream house purchase. Remembered the months of fear and legal battles. Remembered the work it had taken to feel safe again. If we do this, I said slowly, it's with ironclad boundaries. Therapy with reports sent to us. Supervised visits only, no exceptions. And the first time, the very first time, she violates a boundary. She's done, forever. No second chances after the second chance. Agreed, Ryan said immediately. We had our lawyer draft a formal agreement. Patricia would complete 6 months of therapy focused on control issues and boundary setting. The therapist would provide monthly reports to us. After 6 months, if the therapist deemed her progress sufficient, we'd allow supervised visits with Daniel, 30 minutes, once a month, at a neutral location with both Ryan and me present. Any violation of the rules, any attempt to undermine our parenting, any boundary crossing would result in immediate and permanent termination of contact. Patricia's lawyer received the agreement and called ours. My client feels these terms are excessive. She's willing to do therapy, but the supervision requirements feel punitive. They're not punitive, our lawyer responded. They're protective. Your client has a documented history of fraud and boundary violations. If she wants access to her grandson, these are the terms. If she's genuinely changed, they should be easy to follow. After a week of negotiation, Patricia agreed. She found a therapist who specialized in family systems and control issues. The monthly reports started arriving, and they were surprising. Client shows insight into her patterns of behavior, the first report read. She acknowledges that her need for control stems from anxiety about being unneeded. She's working on separating her identity from her role in her son's life. The second month. Client is beginning to understand how her actions were perceived as attacks rather than help. She's working on respecting others' autonomy, even when she disagrees with their choices. The third month. Significant progress. Client caught herself trying to give unsolicited advice this week and stopped herself. She's developing awareness of her patterns in real time. Do you think she's actually changing? I asked Ryan, reading the reports. Or just saying what the therapist wants to hear? I don't know, Ryan said. But she's showing up to therapy every week. She's paying for it herself. She's not fighting the reports. That's more effort than I expected. After 6 months, the therapist sent a final assessment. While client has made substantial progress, she still struggles with boundaries in stressful situations. I recommend continuing therapy while beginning supervised contact. Clear, consistent boundaries will be essential. We scheduled the first visit for a Saturday afternoon at a park halfway between our house and Patricia's condo. She'd downsized after her financial losses, sold her Bellevue house, and moved to a smaller place. The real estate empire she'd been so proud of had shrunk considerably. Daniel was 18 months old, walking and talking in simple sentences. We'd shown him photos of Grandma Patricia and explained that she'd been away but wanted to meet him now. Patricia arrived at the park 10 minutes early. She looked nervous, clutching a small, age-appropriate toy, a wooden puzzle she must have carefully researched. Not the excessive boundary-crossing pile of gifts I'd expected. "Hi," she said to Ryan, not trying to hug him. "Thank you for giving me this chance." "Let's see how it goes," Ryan said carefully. Daniel hid behind my legs, shy with this stranger. Patricia didn't push, didn't reach for him, didn't try to force interaction. She sat on a bench and waited for him to approach her. Slowly, tentatively, Daniel came closer, attracted by the puzzle. Patricia opened it and started showing him how the pieces fit together. Her movements were careful, respectful of his space. She wasn't the overwhelming, controlling Patricia I remembered. She was careful, almost fragile. "He's beautiful," Patricia said quietly to Ryan. "He looks like you did at this age." "Thank you for the puzzle," Ryan said. "It's age-appropriate." "I researched what's good for 18-month-olds, Patricia said. "I wanted to get it right." That phrase, "I wanted to get it right," instead of "I know what's best," felt significant. The visit lasted 30 minutes, as agreed. When time was up, Patricia didn't argue for more time. She said goodbye to Daniel, thanked Ryan and me for allowing the visit, and left. "Well?" Ryan asked as we drove home. "She followed the rules," I admitted. "That's a start, but I wasn't convinced. Following rules for one 30-minute visit was easy. The real test would be whether Patricia could maintain boundaries over time, especially when she disagreed with our choices." Over the next 6 months, Patricia attended monthly visits with Daniel. She was always on time, always respectful, always brought age-appropriate gifts that weren't excessive. She asked questions about Daniel's development, but didn't offer unsolicited advice. When we mentioned we were considering daycare options, she said, "That sounds like a good plan," instead of launching into recommendations. It was unsettling, honestly. This version of Patricia, careful, boundaried, respectful, was so different from the woman who'd committed fraud to stop us from buying a house. "Do you think it's real?" I asked my mother during one of our weekly dinners. "Or is she just acting until we lower our guard?" "Time tells truth," my mother said in Mandarin. "Keep watching. People can pretend for months, but years? That's harder." The real test came when Daniel was 2 years old. We'd started potty training, using a gentle method that involved lots of patience and no pressure. My parents supported our approach, but Patricia, visiting one Saturday, had opinions. "You know," she said, watching Daniel refuse to sit on the potty, "there are faster methods. Intensive training where you devote a whole weekend to it. Very effective." I felt my shoulders tense. Here it was, the old Patricia, knowing better, pushing her methods. But then Patricia caught herself. "Sorry, that was me offering unsolicited advice. Your approach is working for your family. What I think doesn't matter." I stared at her, surprised. She'd corrected herself, without us having to call her out. "Thank you for respecting our choice," Ryan said carefully. "I'm learning that respecting your choices is more important than being right," Patricia said. "Even when I think I am right, which is harder than it sounds, that honesty, admitting it was hard, felt more genuine than if she'd pretended it was easy." A few months later, we faced a bigger test. I was offered a promotion at work that would require occasional travel. It was a significant opportunity, more money, better title, work I was passionate about. But it would mean being away from Daniel sometimes. "What are you thinking?" Ryan asked when I told him about the offer. "That I want to take it," I said. "But I feel guilty about traveling. Daniel's so young. He'll be fine. I work from home 2 days a week and your parents are close by. We can make it work." I mentioned the job offer casually during our next visit with Patricia, expecting judgment. Expecting her to say a mother shouldn't travel, shouldn't prioritize career, shouldn't leave her young child. Instead, Patricia said, "Congratulations. That sounds like a great opportunity. You don't think it's wrong for me to travel for work?" I asked, suspicious. "I think you get to decide what's right for your family," Patricia said carefully. "When Ryan was young, I worked too. It was fine. He was fine. Different families make different choices." After the visit, Ryan was thoughtful. "She's really trying," he said. "That was a perfect opportunity to criticize you, and she didn't take it." "Or she's biding her time," I said, still wary. But as months stretched into a year, Patricia continued to respect boundaries. She asked before buying gifts. She accepted when we said no to something. She attended therapy faithfully. She never showed up uninvited. She never tried to go around our rules. When Daniel was 3, he started asking to see Grandma Patricia more often. She'd become a safe presence in his life, someone who played with him, read him stories, but then left when visits were over. He had no memory of the toxic Patricia who'd almost destroyed our family. "Can we increase visits?" Ryan asked. "Daniel's asking, and Mom's been consistent for over a year now." I was torn. Part of me wanted to maintain strict boundaries forever. But part of me recognized that Patricia had done genuine work. She'd changed her behavior. She'd respected our authority as parents. She'd proven she could prioritize our comfort over her need for control. "What does her therapist say?" I asked. Ryan checked the latest report. "That Patricia has internalized boundary skills. That she's unlikely to regress to old patterns unless under extreme stress. And that gradual increase in contact with continued monitoring is appropriate. We increased visits to twice a month, still supervised. Patricia handled it well. She was grateful for the additional time, but didn't push for more. When we had to cancel a visit because Daniel was sick, she was understanding instead of making it about how disappointed she was. The turning point came 6 months later. I had an emergency business trip, a client crisis that required me to fly to San Francisco immediately. Ryan had an unmovable deadline. My parents were visiting Taiwan. We had no child care. "I can take Daniel," Patricia offered when Ryan mentioned the situation during a visit. Every alarm bell in my body went off. Patricia alone with Daniel, unsupervised? What if she undermined us? What if she taught him that our rules didn't matter? What if this was what she'd been waiting for? A chance to have him alone so she could start reshaping him according to her preferences. "I don't think," I started. "I understand your hesitation," Patricia interrupted gently. "I've earned that distrust, but I've been showing up consistently for 2 years. I've followed every rule. I've respected every boundary. If you're not comfortable, I understand. But if you need help, I'm here. No strings attached. Ryan and I talked about it privately. It's one night," he said. "And we're out of options unless we want to cancel the trip or hire a stranger." She could undo years of careful parenting in one night, I argued. "Or she could be the grandmother Daniel deserves," Ryan countered. "May I know what she did to us. I'll never forget it. But she's put in 2 years of consistent work. At some point we have to decide, do we believe people can change or don't we?" I called Patricia that evening. "If we allow this, there are rules. Daniel's bedtime is 7:30. His routine is bath, story, bed. He can have one small snack before bed, but nothing sugary. Screen time is limited to 30 minutes. And you call me when you put him down so I can say goodnight." "I'll follow every rule," Patricia promised. "You have my word, my word." Patricia's word had been worthless 5 years ago when she'd committed fraud. But maybe, after 2 years of therapy and consistent behavior change, her word meant something now. I left Daniel with Patricia with my heart in my throat, called her 4 times before his bedtime. She answered patiently each time, gave me updates, put Daniel on the phone to talk to me. At 7:30, she called to say he was in bed. "Did you follow the routine?" I asked. Bath with his rubber duck, the 3 books he picked out, his favorite blanket, white noise machine on. He went down easily. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. "Thank you for trusting me," Patricia said quietly. "I know how hard that was. I won't take it for granted." When I got home the next day, I braced myself for evidence that Patricia had broken rules. But Daniel was happy, well-rested, and immediately told me about the fun night with Grandma, where they'd followed all the regular rules. She gave me the same dinner as you do, Daniel reported. And the same bath. And the same stories. It was the same, but with Grandma. That was the moment I realized. Patricia had genuinely changed. She'd had the perfect opportunity to prove she knew better, to show Daniel that her rules were more fun, to undermine our parenting. And she hadn't. She'd respected our authority even when we weren't there to enforce it. Your mother came through, I told Ryan that night. She followed every rule. I know she did, Ryan said. She texted me updates all night. She was so careful to do everything right. Over the next year, we gradually relaxed supervision. Patricia earned unsupervised visits, earned the right to take Daniel to the park alone, earned overnight visits occasionally, and every time she respected our boundaries. When Daniel was 5, Patricia did something that surprised me. She called and asked if we could talk, just her and me, without Ryan. We met at a coffee shop near our house. Patricia looked nervous. I wanted to apologize, she said. Genuinely apologize, not the half apologies I gave before. What I did 5 years ago, impersonating you, sabotaging your house purchase, all of it, was wrong. Not just wrong because it had consequences, but wrong because I violated your autonomy and your trust. I was trying to control you because I couldn't accept that Ryan had built a life that didn't revolve around me. I sat silently, letting her continue. I told myself I was protecting him, that I knew better, that my experience in real estate meant my judgment was superior. But really, I was terrified of becoming irrelevant. Ryan was my whole identity after his father died. When he married you, when you two started making decisions without consulting me, I felt erased. So I tried to prove you needed me by sabotaging you. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. That house you wanted, the Craftsman in Maple Leaf, it was perfect for you. I knew it was perfect. That's why I destroyed it. Because if you succeeded without me, it proved you didn't need me. And I couldn't handle that. So you committed fraud, I said quietly. Yes, Patricia said. I committed fraud. And I'm not going to minimize it by calling it a mistake or saying I was just trying to help. I deliberately impersonated you. I used your personal information without permission. I lied to the title company. I tried to destroy something you'd worked 5 years for. That was criminal. It was abusive, and I'm deeply, genuinely sorry. It was the apology I'd needed 5 years ago. Hearing it now, after years of watching Patricia do the work to change, it felt genuine in a way it never could have back then. Thank you, I said, for finally taking real responsibility. I'm also sorry for everything that came after, Patricia continued. The false tip to your lender, showing up at Daniel's first birthday uninvited, all the times I violated your boundaries because I thought my desire to be involved mattered more than your right to set limits. I was wrong. About all of it. You were, I agreed. You cost us a lot. Money, time, peace of mind. Years of our lives we spent in fear and conflict instead of just enjoying being newlyweds, new parents, new homeowners. I know, Patricia said, and I can't give those years back. I can only promise I'm not that person anymore. Therapy helped me understand that my worth isn't tied to being needed, that I can be valued without being central to every decision, that Ryan's success without my input doesn't diminish me. It proves I raised a capable adult. What changed? I asked. Why did the therapy work this time when nothing else did? Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Losing everything. Losing the investment property cost me money. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was losing Ryan. Knowing I had a grandson I'd never met. Realizing my reputation in the real estate community was destroyed because people knew what I'd done. I hit a bottom low enough that I had to look at myself honestly. And I hated what I saw. She wiped her eyes. I was a bully. A woman who used money and manipulation and fraud to control people because I was too insecure to trust that they'd choose to include me if I wasn't forcing my way in. And I realized I'd rather be alone forever than continue being that person. So you changed, I said. I'm changing, Patricia corrected. It's ongoing work. There are still days I want to offer unsolicited advice or take over situations I think I could handle better. But now I catch myself. I ask, is this about what's actually best? Or is this about my need to feel important? And usually it's the latter, so I keep my mouth shut. I sip my coffee, processing. I appreciate this apology, genuinely. But Patricia, you understand that even with all this progress, there's damage that can't be fully undone? Ryan and I will never fully trust you the way we could have if you hadn't done what you did. I know, Patricia said. And that's a consequence I have to live with. My relationship with my son will always have this scar. My relationship with you will always be built on proving myself rather than automatic trust. That's what I earned with my behavior. But we're willing to keep building, I said carefully. As long as you keep respecting boundaries, as long as you keep doing the work. I will, Patricia promised. Not just because I want access to Daniel, though I do, but because I genuinely don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be a grandmother Daniel is proud of, a mother Ryan doesn't have to fear, a mother-in-law you don't have to defend yourself against. After that conversation, something shifted. Patricia was still careful with boundaries, but there was less tension. She'd acknowledged the full scope of what she'd done, and somehow that acknowledgement made it easier to move forward. When Daniel was 6, we did something I never thought we'd do. We invited Patricia to our house for his birthday party. Not a supervised visit at a park, but our actual home with other family and friends present. Patricia arrived with a single, appropriately sized gift and a homemade Chinese dessert. She helped set up without taking over. She talked to my parents politely, even though things between them had been awkward since the fraud incident. She played with Daniel and his friends without trying to direct all the activities. "Your mother-in-law seems different," my mother said to me in Mandarin while we were in the kitchen. "Less sharp." "She's been in therapy for 3 years," I said. "She's done real work. Can people really change that much?" My mother asked skeptically. "I didn't think so," I admitted. "But I'm starting to believe it's possible. With enough consequences, enough therapy, enough genuine desire to be different." At the end of the party, as Patricia was leaving, Daniel ran up and hugged her. "Thanks for coming, Grandma." I love the present. I watched Patricia's face transform, pure joy with no undertone of possessiveness or control. Just a grandmother happy to be included in her grandson's life. "Thank you for inviting me," Patricia said to Ryan and me. "Not just to the party, but back into your lives. I know I didn't deserve a second chance. You earned it," Ryan said, "by doing the work to actually change." After she left, Ryan and I stood in our kitchen, the kitchen in the house Patricia had tried to prevent us from buying, and looked at each other. "We made it," I said. "Through all of it. We got the house, we have Daniel, we have peace with your mother. We actually made it." "We did," Ryan agreed, "though I wouldn't want to do those 5 years again." "Never again," I said firmly, but we had made it. And the house we'd fought so hard for, the house that represented years of saving and dreaming and surviving Patricia's sabotage, it was ours. Fully, finally, peacefully ours. Daniel is 10 years old now. He has a good relationship with his paternal grandmother, not as close as he is with my parents, who see him multiple times a week, but warm and genuine. Patricia takes him to museums sometimes, teaches him about real estate investments in age-appropriate ways, and respects our parenting decisions even when she privately thinks differently. She's still in therapy, still working on her control issues, still catching herself when old patterns try to emerge. But she's fundamentally different from the woman who committed fraud 7 years ago. Do you think she would have changed without consequences? Ryan asked me recently. No, I said honestly. If we'd just forgiven her after the house incident, if we'd let her back in without requiring accountability, she would have learned that sabotage works. That if she pushes hard enough, she gets what she wants. So losing the investment property, losing access to me and Daniel, that was necessary? It was, I said. Sometimes people only change when the cost of staying the same becomes unbearable. We still live in the Maple Leaf Craftsman. We've made it truly ours over the years, renovated the kitchen, finished the attic, planted a garden Daniel helps maintain. It's appreciated significantly in value, which Patricia has never mentioned, though I'm sure she's noticed. Last year, we paid off the mortgage. 15 years instead of 30, because we continued the aggressive saving habits we'd developed before buying. The day we made the final payment, Ryan and I stood in our living room and just looked at each other. "We did it," he said. "We own this house, completely. No one can take it from us." "No one can take it from us," I agreed. Patricia was happy for us when we told her. That's a huge accomplishment, she said. Paying off a mortgage in 15 years in this market. You should be proud. No commentary about how we should have invested differently. No suggestions about what to do with the money we'd been putting toward mortgage payments. Just genuine pride in our achievement. Thank you, I said. And I meant it. I still think about the old Patricia sometimes. The woman who used my social security number to commit fraud. Who sabotaged the first closing. Who sent false tips to our lender. Who showed up uninvited to Daniel's first birthday. That woman caused so much damage, so much pain, so many years of fear and legal battles. But I also think about what my father said years ago. Nobody won. That's what happens when family fights. Everybody loses something. We all lost something in those years. Patricia lost money, reputation, and years with her son and grandson. Ryan lost the uncomplicated relationship with his mother. I lost peace of mind and the joy of early marriage and parenthood. Daniel lost the chance to have a grandmother present from birth. But we also gained something. We gained the knowledge that we could survive Patricia's worst, that we could set boundaries and enforce them, that consequences could lead to genuine change, that families could heal, slowly, with accountability and work and time. Would you do anything differently? Ryan asked me on our 10-year wedding anniversary. We were sitting on our porch, watching Daniel play basketball in the driveway, Patricia visiting and cheering him on. I would have set stricter boundaries with your mother from the beginning, I said, before she felt entitled to involvement in every aspect of our lives. Maybe if we'd established those boundaries early, she wouldn't have escalated to fraud. Or maybe she would have escalated anyway, Ryan said, because the boundaries themselves were what she couldn't tolerate. Maybe, I agreed. But I also wouldn't change calling her realtor after she sabotaged us. She needed to face real consequences. That's what finally forced her to look at herself. $80,000 in consequences, Ryan said. Plus losing her son and grandson for 2 years, I added. Those consequences together were enough to break through her denial. I work in family fraud prevention now. After everything with Patricia, I became passionate about helping families identify financial abuse and manipulation. I give workshops about protecting personal information, recognizing red flags, setting financial boundaries with relatives. Trust but verify is my motto. And when someone violates that trust, there have to be consequences. I tell a version of our story sometimes, anonymized, of course, about a mother-in-law who committed real estate fraud against her daughter-in-law, about the years of legal battles that followed, about the daughter-in-law who retaliated by costing the mother-in-law her own property purchase, about the consequences that finally forced accountability. Did the family reconcile? People always ask. Eventually, I say, but only after the offending party did genuine work to change. Only after consistent proof over years that the behavior wouldn't repeat. Reconciliation isn't automatic. It's earned. Some people think I was too harsh with Patricia. That costing her $80,000 was excessive revenge. That keeping her from Daniel for 2 years was cruel. But I know what would have happened if we hadn't enforced consequences. Patricia would have learned that fraud works, that she could violate our boundaries and face no real repercussions. She would have escalated, finding new ways to control us, new vulnerabilities to exploit. The consequences weren't revenge. They were the price of change. And Patricia paid it, willingly in the end, because she decided being a better person mattered more than being right. Last month, Patricia did something that showed me how far she'd come. Daniel mentioned wanting to buy a house someday when he grows up, and Patricia told him about different types of mortgages, about down payments and interest rates. Age-appropriate financial education. Then Daniel asked, "Grandma, can you help me buy my house when I'm older?" Patricia looked at me and Ryan, checking for permission before answering. When we nodded, she said, "I can give you advice if you want it, Daniel. But the decision about what house to buy and how to buy it, that's yours, not mine. I can support you, but I can't control you. That's not love. That's just me being afraid you'll make different choices than I would. And you should make your own choices." After Daniel went to play, Patricia said quietly, 7 years ago, I would have said, "Of course I'll help you buy a house. I know exactly what you should get. Let Grandma handle it." And I would have steamrolled right over his autonomy the way I did to you and Ryan. "But you caught yourself," I said. "I'm learning that being helpful means offering support. Not taking over, Patricia said. It's still hard sometimes, but I'm trying. We can see that, Ryan said, and we appreciate it. Our house, the Craftsman in maple leaf that Patricia tried to prevent us from buying, sits on a street lined with mature trees. In spring, the cherry blossoms turn everything pink. In fall, the leaves create a carpet of red and gold. It's beautiful. It's peaceful. It's ours. And sometimes, when Patricia visits and we all sit on the porch watching Daniel play, I think about how much it cost to get here. Not just the mortgage payments, but the emotional toll, the years of conflict, the legal fees, the constant vigilance. But I also think about what we gained, a family that respects boundaries, a grandmother who learned to prioritize relationships over control, a son who's growing up watching adults model accountability and change. Was it worth it? The fraud, the retaliation, the years of supervised visits and therapy reports and careful boundary maintenance? Yes, because the alternative, allowing Patricia's behavior to continue unchecked, would have been worse. We would have spent our lives under her control, or we would have had to cut her off permanently. This middle path, accountability leading to genuine change, was harder but ultimately better. Our house represents more than just the American dream of homeownership. It represents survival, resilience, the triumph of boundaries over manipulation, the proof that people can change when consequences are real and accountability is required. And every time I walk through that front door, I remember, we fought for this. We sacrificed for this. We survived Patricia's worst to get this, and no one can ever take it away from us.